During World War II, 1942 to 1945, airplanes were not manufactured for private use. In 1946, private plane production was resumed by such companies as Cessna. Cessna was hoping there would be a big post-war market for light private planes. During the war, tens of thousands of Americans had been trained to be pilots by the U.S. military. It was hoped many of these pilots, after they left the service, would want to fly their own planes. The problem was a private airplane was expensive and not viewed as a must-have item by the average American. To sell a lot of airplanes, a company had to keep the price down. To do that, the airplane had to be made as simple as possible. The result was, in 1946, Cessna produced models 140 and 120 airplanes. Both were basically the same plane. The Model 120 was the simpler and cheaper version. It had a metal fuselage, but fabric-covered wings. The airplane's main wing had no wing flaps. In the aftermarket, some 120s were modified. The main wing was metal covered and flaps were added. The 120 could be sold even cheaper because of several options. For example, a customer could choose not to have a rear side windows, no radio was installed, nor have electric lights inside the cabin, nor even have an electrical engine starter. That meant the pilot had to spin the propeller by hand, and once it was spinning on its own, he would run around and jump into the cabin. If the 120 had no cabin lights or landing lights, it could only be used for daytime flying. The plane could carry only 2 people and 80 pounds of luggage, which was placed behind the seats. The 120 was a reliable and easy-to-fly airplane. However, it was basically a fair-weather plane. When flying a 120, a pilot would want to avoid any kind of stormy weather. Cessna produced a total of 7,664 Model 140s and 120s between 1946 and 1950. Of this total, 2,172 were Model 120s. In 1950, production of 120s stopped. For the next 60 years, the Model 120s would continue to be flown, but in ever-decreasing numbers. Specifications for the Cessna 120 model are: it could carry 2 people, a pilot and a passenger, but it had dual flight controls. Length 21 feet, wingspan 33 feet, height 6 feet at the tail top. Loaded weight 1,450 pounds. Power plant was a horizontally opposed 4-cylinder engine producing 85 horsepower. Maximum speed 120 miles per hour. Cruising speed 100 miles an hour. Ceiling 15,500 feet. Range 450 miles.